My next guest says of President Trump's move to vet all Afghan immigrants after learning the DC shooting suspect came from Afghanistan. Quote, this individual's isolated and violent act should not be used as an excuse to define or diminish an entire community. Those who would twist this moment to attack Afghan families aren't seeking safety or justice. They are exploiting division and endangering us all. Well, Sean Van Diver is founder and president of AfghanEvac, a non-profit run by American veterans that work with the US government to help relocate and resettle Afghans after what was that chaotic US withdrawal in 2021. He joins me now from San Diego in California. I'm not sure quite how much you heard of my conversation with our chief international security editor, Nick Robertson, but Nick, pay more apologies. But, we've been discussing the fact that at present, we must be quite clear, we do not know the motivation of this shooter in DC, who has sadly killed one National Guard and still, obviously, we have another seriously injured at this point. But first, Sean, good to have you. Can you just tell us what you're hearing from Afghans in the US right now about this crackdown on migrants and indeed, and let's be quite clear about this, those who are holding green cards at this point?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. And my heart goes out to the families of both fallen guardsmen. We lost one guardsman and another is fighting for their lives. And nobody should ever have to face this. What we're hearing from Afghans all across this country, both with green cards, citizens, and those awaiting adjustment, is great fear. They absolutely decry what this man did. They are very upset. He's not indicative of the larger Afghan community. And they're worried that the president and his team are going to use this man's actions, this deranged man's actions, as a cudgel to kick them out of a place that they've spent their entire lives serving. And that's an awful feeling, especially around Thanksgiving.
Yeah. There's been an awful lot of back and forth, and Nick and I were just discussing this, over the vetting of Afghans being relocated and resettled in the United States. Let's just remind ourselves how President Trump described this last night.
They're standing on top of each other, and that's an airplane. There was no vetting or anything. They came in unvetted. And we have a lot of others in this country. We're going to get them out. But they go cuckoo.
There are few better plays to walk us through the actual process from point A to Z on how Afghans fled, how they were vetted and how they were resettled in the US than you, Sean. So just walk us through the process, if you will.
Sure. This is going to shock you, but the president is wrong. Look, people that came on the planes in August of 2021, they were vetted before they left. They were vetted when they went to a third country. To continue their processing. They were vetted by CBP and USCIS before they arrived here. While they were here and awaiting adjustments of status, they were continuously vetted. They would have been vetted. This man who committed this terrible crime would have been vetted throughout his SIV application, which generally happens overseas, but because he was brought here temporarily, happened here. And he would have been vetted before President Trump gave him asylum in April of 2025. Yesterday, we heard the National Counterterrorism Center say that he cleared all vetting. And so we don't think that this is a vetting issue. We think this is one man who, as the president said, went cuckoo and took a deranged action that is not broadly indicative of the Afghan community at all.
I have to say, I witnessed the vetting in Abu Dhabi of Afghans. This was one of those third countries, of course, and as an observer, it certainly looked long and very arduous. I mean, I'm not privy to the detail on what was being discussed in that vetting process, but it certainly took an awful lot of time. To focus in on the suspect then for a moment, what is your specific understanding of his role in the CIA's operations in Kandahar and the Zero units? What more do you have to tell us about him and the wider use of Afghans working with the CIA, particularly in those units?
Sure. Look, this man was a member of the Zero units, which were elite counterterrorism units that went out sometimes with our military and CIA and sometimes on their own. And they fought our war for us. They went out there and did all sorts of things. And so they would see the same sort of trauma that our American service members would see. The war is horrific. And these folks fought our war right alongside us. There was a lot of speculation. People had a lot of negative things to say about them, but the CIA would always tell us that it was would say that it was Taliban propaganda. I don't have direct knowledge of what reality looks like there, but what I do know is that the CIA was able to get a lot of their folks out during. They were the bulk of the people that were able to get out during the withdrawal, and they've had a lot of success getting people here. This guy didn't need help from any of the evacuation organizations. He had help from the CIA to get here.
It's good to have you. It's an incredibly important story, clearly, amplified now to the nth degree with the decision by President Trump to stop, the issuance of green cards, to look at those that have been, already issued.
Oh.
I mean, there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who will be affected by this in the United States. So it's important that we continue to press and look at all sides of this issue. And having you on today has been enormously useful in doing that. Thank you. Good to have you, Sean.